All right, the moment a lot of you guys have been waiting for. We are loading up, getting some people on. Of course, you guys know we are live streaming on YouTube, the Isaac T. Ruiz channel, the Maverick Times YouTube channel, the Maverick Times Facebook channel, and also the Isaac T. Ruiz on X, formerly known as Twitter. This is the Maverick Times podcast, episode number 0075. Our guest, Ramsey English Cantu, the Maverick County judge. So today's guest knows how to stand in the heat, and he doesn't run from it. He doesn't flinch. He doesn't fold. He doesn't disappear when it's uncomfortable. Ramsey English Cantu is the county judge of Maverick County. He holds a degree in organizational leadership. He brings more than 10 years of experience in public service, mayor, city councilman, now county judge. He didn't ask for a favor. He earned a mandate. In 2022, he faced off with a political heavyweight, David Salcedo, an incumbent, a man many in this community viewed as a tyrant. And Ramsey Cantu beat him with one thing: the support of the people. He walked into a fractured court, picked up his gavel, and went straight to work. Today, he oversees a county of more than 60,000 residents, and his court is one of the most closely watched in Southwest Texas. Since taking office, the tax rate has gone down every single year, and the money coming in has changed the game. It isn't a theory. It isn't follow through. Programs that didn't exist before, projects that were out of reach, now are fully underway. These aren't ideas, they're execution. Real growth, real change, but every action creates friction, and change does not come without challenge. A petition was filed to remove him from office by a former county commissioner, who is now his opponent. Some said it was about taxes, others said it was about power. The court said it had no merit, but the debate didn't end there. Is it too much power in one seat, or is it the first time this seat has never been used the way it should be? It isn't campaign fluff. It isn't a show. This is the record. This is the man behind it. This is Judge Ramsey English Cantu, and the conversation starts now. Judge
Good
Cantu,
evening.
welcome to the Maverick Times podcast. How are you doing?
I'm doing just fine. Isaac, thank you so much for the invitation. I know that you pretty much made an invitation out there for quite some time, inviting the candidates to take part in your podcast. And just, of course, as I have made myself accessible for interviews at any time for anyone, it has always been something that we're readily available for and ready to answer those tough questions, because this is something that for me, as a leader, that we all need to understand that leaders need to have what is the intestinal fortitude. And that's something that I've always said throughout my many years in public service, is that, we're here to make tough decisions, to make the decisions that are in the best interest of the community. And that's what we're here for. So I'm excited to be on today's podcast and to talk to the residents, of course, of Maverick County, and to answer, some questions that, you may have for us. And of course, even look towards some of those questions that might be out there for this community. So we're here to talk. Let's have a conversation.
No, absolutely. Thank you. And I do want to point out that we did invite every single judge candidate, the 3 Democrat and the 1 Republican. We have not received word yet from Jerry Morales' campaign. We haven't received word from Domingo Rodriguez's campaign. And we did have Ruben Camarillo back out from our interview. So we really appreciate you taking the time. So let's get started.
Sure.
What made you want to take on the role of county judge after serving in city government as a councilman and mayor?
Well, public service, Isaac, has been in my blood for years. That has been my passion and what I have always done to give back to my community in many ways. Serving from the city, the days from pretty much making $10 a month $9.25 after taxes were removed from those respective checks, and then donating those checks back to the employee Christmas fund. It was never really about money, obviously, for me. The passion that I have to serve and to give back to my community was where I pretty much wanted to make sure that we were always doing what was in the best interest of my community. You know, starting there, the city of Eagle Pass was literally, if you were to tell me where I saw myself past, a certain time frame, I would have never thought I would have gotten past being mayor. Being mayor was literally, in my personal opinion, the one position that I truly loved. I truly had a great desire for many years to reach that goal, and I accomplished it. And once I finished that term, obviously went on to serve at the state level, serving as the regional director for State Senator Roland Gutierrez. And I was enjoying, let me tell you, being, throughout the district, working with the senator, working on legislative priorities, working on issues that ultimately made an impact for Senate District 19. It was impactful for me to be able to help at another level and to gain additional experience working with state agencies, working with, organizations that are at a greater point of trying to get help to communities like not only Eagle Pass, but serving Del Rio, serving Uvalde, serving a lot of distinct areas throughout the area that I was scheduled to work on. And I think that, that to me was like an eye opener. But then, of course, the opportunity came for me to consider running for county judge. And my opinion in that end was that, that race, one, I've never based myself or based a decision on how difficult a race is going to be. I have based myself always on the decisions that I've made as to what can I bring to the table and what can we accomplish working to make things better from where we are and where we have been. And I was able to come into this seat not ever thinking that I would ever be county judge. That was never a thought process. I never, like I said, being mayor was really all my intention ever really was. But getting here and finally getting a full understanding and view of what the county judge office has the responsibility for me, I saw what was a huge challenge. And let me tell you that when I arrived on day one at the county judge's seat and at the county judge's office, I still remember walking in on December 31st. I was officially given the keys to the office on December 31st at 6 o'clock in the evening. And when those keys were turned over, I remember walking in there with individuals, supporters of mine, and remember seeing what was bags of shredded documents. Remember going literally after the 31st, hadn't even opened a computer yet in my office, and then come to realize that the judge's executive assistant at that time had completely wiped out computers in my office. Issues that ultimately set our administration back without having an understanding. But yet, this is what we do. I'm not going to sit here or I'm not going to go and face the community and say, oh, we have this huge problem in my office. No, we get to work. We ultimately rolled up our sleeves and said, okay, we've got this problem. One, reported it to the authorities as it needed to be, because obviously that was an issue that needed to be addressed. Took the necessary steps for that to be reported, obviously, to the Texas Rangers and to the FBI, because these are documents that are ultimately matters that are coming before the court and that were, shredded. Numbers of them. I mean, and not only to mention that as the executive assistant, that individual had all of the documentation for that. The departments had to actually struggle to try to obtain some and recover some documentation. But literally, the county judge's computer at that time, really, he didn't work from it, which goes to tell me that he didn't work at all. That there was nothing ever really going on in his office other than, the political games that went on for years. And it's unfortunate that that's obviously what we had to deal with and go through. But what I truly have seen and what I have been able to accomplish is that from day one to now, we have been able to work towards making a difference in our community. And despite the challenges from day one, we have fought and we have moved past them. I don't sit back and try to, well, we hit a roadblock. No, well, you know what? We hit a roadblock, but you know what? Let's bust through that roadblock. Let's try to get something else. When there have been issues of trying to obtain funding or to look towards grants or to look towards any type of opportunity that we can bring in more, we have put in overtime to try to do that. And that is something that for me, it is extremely important that as a county judge, reasoning as to why I decided to run at the end of the day was because one, I enjoy a challenge. Two, I knew what I could bring to the table through my experience, not only as a mayor, as a district director, working with state agencies, creating those agency bonds and those opportunities to work with state legislators, not to even mention, of course, the nearly 20 years of opportunities and relationships, professional relationships that I have been able to nurture over the years to have that type of support from our state and federal agencies. So I knew that we had a lot to bring forth. We were working to do just that. And that's what we have been able to accomplish, and that was obviously my reasoning for doing that. There was so many things that needed to be addressed, from infrastructure to finances of the county, the way that it was when I got there to now where we're working on the issues of the past. And thankfully, despite the matters, we still come out with blazing colors to assure clear audits, moving sure that we are doing what is right and moving the county in the right direction.
Oh yeah, Judge. I mean, there really was shredded bags of paper in there. I mean, that's kind of.
I still remember, I still literally remember, and it's literally like me walking. I can still recall walking into that office and seeing what were approximately 6 bags of shredded paper documents that were in back of the county judge's desk. And that just obviously goes to tell me, a lot of the issues of what was going on at that time. And rightfully so, everybody, has the right to do what they want. But when you're an elected official and you most importantly are a custodian of records for documents to the county, it is important and imperative that, despite whatever you may think of what it is, there is a record retention plan that has to be in place for that in order to make sure that if there are documents that need to be disposed of, there's a process to do that. You don't just leave documents shredded behind your desk. And I'm pretty sure that the maintenance department at that time was given directives to do so and to get rid of them, because I had that conversation at that time. But this was obviously, an issue where it happened, and that's the reality of what Maverick County was, the old Maverick County.
Just so everybody knows, just in case they don't, that your predecessor was. He's actually running again, right? Or trying to run again. He submitted an intent to run as an independent, David Salcedo. And I think it's a concern for people that may not know that. And I mean, I'm definitely blown away about hearing this for the first time, that there was shredded paper in bags left all around. I mean, what? I mean, in the public sector, there isn't things to hide. Am I correct? I mean, everything should be available for the public.
No, literally, and that's something that to me is always been the case. Where these documents obviously should have been there. They should have been readily available for anybody that wished to see those documents. I mean, whatever they were. I mean, I couldn't make out what those documents were at the time. So it was a very difficult situation that we had, but nonetheless, what can you expect from David Salcedo? That's all I can say. He is my former opponent. I literally, we have seen a lot that has come from that individual. Yes, he has filed an intent to run as an independent, but a lot of people are also confused on that one. Because they're like, well, is he a candidate? Is he going to be on the ballot? And no, he's not on the ballot. He is not on the primary ballots. After June, there are certain deadlines that need to be met, that he needs to submit so many signatures that need to be required in order for him to be considered. And then, of course, that would be out until the November race. That is, if, of course, he finds the necessary amount of individuals whom will sign for him and who did not vote in either Republican or Democratic primary. So it's very clear that there's a process that also needs to be handled there. I've seen David participate in some events or an event that was held in Quemado, where that event kind of unfortunately was set on the regular scheduled commissioners court meeting. So we had a commissioners court meeting scheduled for that day, and they had all of the county judge candidates set up there. In my personal opinion, David Salcedo is not even a qualified candidate yet to be even participating in these types of events. But hey, that's up to the sponsoring or organizing events. My issue at this point right now, relies heavily on the democratic process and the Democratic Party process and what we're doing there. Let's get past that, and then we'll worry about independents and Republicans in November.
So I'm digging a little bit. Of course, that's the past administration, right?
Correct.
You've talked about the difference is a little bit about your administration and that administration. One of the things that has been noticed is the past county judge, they have not really been in the judicial capacity that you have brought forth into the community. I believe, you wear the robe and everything and you see these cases in front of you. What is the difference? Why didn't the past administration do this? Were they not doing their job?
Isaac, I couldn't tell you why they weren't doing it, but the one thing that I can tell you is that I'm doing my job. And that's what's setting me apart, obviously, from the past administration. I have a responsibility and a judicial responsibility to serve in two distinct capacities. One, of an administrative capacity as the chief elected official and the chief executive officer for the county of Maverick, and two, as the judicial or the member of the judiciary for the county that holds court for misdemeanor courts, probate matters, guardianships. Those are all those matters. In my opinion, our court system in the past was unfortunately, and I see it from this way, Isaac. During the last campaign, I heard from numbers of individuals who were basically telling me that their cases weren't moving forward. Protective orders weren't being signed off on. Matters of just the simple, basic factors of what to do to actually get justice and have justice prevail. And there are different, obviously, hierarchies of the justice system. In this, you have obviously the justice of the peace, you have the county court, you have the district court, and then so on and so on. If you're going to, appeal district court decisions, you go to the fourth court of appeals. Whatever the process is, there is a process for it. But in these cases, when I'm seeing these types of situations where individuals were coming to me on the campaign trail last time and telling me, we have, I still recall this father who literally was in tears with me because he had an issue where, and, I'm not going to go into specifics of the case, but he had an issue with his child. And this child, whom was already an adult, literally was waiting on issues of protective matters. And when I see that type of a situation and I say, I wouldn't want my family to have to wait on justice like that. I wouldn't want to wait anybody to have to wait for somebody to do what is their job, what they are elected to do. And unfortunately, that is what we saw. Individuals just the cases weren't moving. Now we are literally, holding court twice a month, moving cases. I'm proud to say that our court system has evolved tremendously. I'm a working judge and I have, the issue of making sure that people understand that as we have approved what is the financial responsibility, my issue as the budget officer is to make sure that we have a balanced budget, that the budgets are moving forward, that we can do what is right for our departments and what is fair, and what we can afford, most especially. But on this side, for the judicial function, it was important for me to do everything that I could to get that court system back in place. And I was very honored by the Texas Judiciary Academy to receive what is recognition for the work that we've done in comparison to where we were to where we are now. Office of Court Administration also has, expressed their complete, appreciation to where we're taking this and the changes that we're doing in the court system. Because county judge is just not an issue about being out there, with matters that are pertaining to to our precincts, there's also a judicial function. And while the precincts are extremely important and working with the commissioners are extremely important on the court side, there's also a very heavy portion that we need to accomplish on the judicial function. And that's something that I'm very proud of. I'm very proud that we can move that portion forward and that we can actually get things done for the benefit, of course, of our community and our court system.
Awesome. I think the crowd and everybody can really appreciate the residents' progress moving forward, doing what the county should be doing in their capacity, right? Sorry, Judge, if you saw me moving around a little bit. I saw here in the comments that there was a little bit of an echo. I think we fixed it. But one of the things that we have seen, and we monitor social media for what people are saying, what people are talking about. There was some kind of misconception that taxes have gone up in the county. Now, I think that, in investigating this, your administration every single year has lowered the tax rate from the county.
Every year that we have had a budget approval, we have literally gone down on the tax rate based upon our valuations of properties. As everyone knows, and everybody always has an issue with what is our appraisal matters and everything that goes on with the appraisal district. When we see those numbers go up on appraisal values, we take that into consideration. The court, of course, has that option to leave it as is, as long as it's not going to cause a rollback matter on the tax rate. But the court has adjusted the respective tax rates in every single fiscal year that we have approved it, which is now our third budget that we have worked on, and we have actually been able to lower the tax rate. Now this is our third year, and looking towards doing so into our fourth in October. We have to continue doing all that we can when it comes down to helping our residents, when it comes to our taxing rate. And I think that that has been a way that we have been able to work together with the court, which I have to recognize the court, because we have voted to do that and to lower those rates, lower the respective amounts that are affecting sometimes residents, and we've been able to accomplish that. So yes, we have been able to lower our tax rates in these last 3 consecutive years.
So now of course, you're lowering the tax rate. What does that mean? That means that maybe the county's not receiving the same revenue that they did the previous year. So what we've noticed is that the county has been receiving a lot of grant funds through several different areas. Now, you're getting new types of funding, trying to figure that. What was different from past administrations to your administrations? What have you been able to implement to push that forward and increase or find alternative routes of funding so it does not hurt the taxpayer?
Well, one thing that that I'm very proud of course, is our efforts that we've taken in order to move forward with looking towards any and all types of grant funding opportunities, whether they're through CDBG, Community Development Block Grants that are available through the state of Texas, through the Texas Department of Agriculture, or whether we're looking through EDA grants, matters that are obtaining funds through federal government matters, or of course the numerous grants, of course, that have been able to get accomplished for law enforcement measures, for opportunities for our respective precincts in different areas, whether it's Texas Parks and Wildlife, for our parks divisions, whether it's matters that are pertaining to needs in housing, rehab, looking at those types of opportunities for our grant funding in that aspect, whether it's extending water lines or providing fire protection to areas like Quemado and El Indio that are in the works, or more than anything, just recently, some of the grant funding opportunities that we were able to obtain an additional, and the project is in the works for La Herradura, an area that actually had been, I mean, anytime I thought of La Herradura, I literally thought, this is just as bad of a situation, that our residents have to live in a situation to where it's third world country type matters, where they didn't have the necessary drainage, they didn't have the necessary opportunity for proper water lines into that area. There's a lot that we've been working on. It has been something that, for me, looking towards funding, looking towards other avenues, we haven't stopped. The work, of course, that has been accomplished of course, the grants department, and you're no stranger to that department, Isaac. You know all that's going on there. But in that area, that is an area that for me has been extremely fruitful for our residents, because at the end of the day, when we see this situation and when we see the matters that are ongoing for our community, that's what we need to do. We had issues for funding in the matters of providing for new units for our constables, for our 4 precincts. They received what are brand new units, which we're looking at through Operation Lone Star funding. Those were for our OLS officers. We were able to obtain over almost $1.4 million in radio operability from the Middle Rio Grande Council of Governments, that were able to provide new digital radios in order to assure that all of our agencies are operable together. Police department, fire department, sheriff's department, our constables, and there's still work that we need to get additional radios, but nonetheless, we've started the process. Something that in the past really never was. Our constable, at the courthouse, whom is also the bailiff, I remember looking at his radio and saying, "Geez, this thing looks like a dinosaur." I mean, and it was those blocks that were about that large, and I mean, it was unfortunate that this is what we had to deal with, but we really had never taken a proactive approach on what was going on for our departments, our officers, and it's something that we're working towards. And I wish that we could do everything in 3 years or 4 years, but we've started. And that's what to me is most important. We've started making these changes. We've started investing in our county. And that's where we're going to continue working towards getting these accomplishments for Maverick County.
Awesome, awesome. Yeah, I mean, there has been a lot of different funding that's been crossed. Texas Wildlife Parks grants that, I think the county hadn't received any funding since the 90s. You guys did receive 3 grants in last year alone. Indigent defense grants, of course, through a coordinator. We'll talk about the public defender a little bit in a little while. The juvenile truancy diversion grant, which is a first time ever grant in Maverick County that is addressing a situation that, in talking to schools, it is a major concern for them. One of the things that I want to talk about, because I think you've been criticized that you haven't really done much infrastructure, or maybe people are not aware of that. There is grants, of course, in El Indio, Quemado, that are working through water grants, a fire hydrant grant, a hydropneumatic tank out there in El Indio. But can you tell us a little bit about this new substation in Loma Bonita, and why was there a need for a substation in Loma Bonita?
Well, yes, for sure. And as we're looking at that, and those obviously are projects that are funded obviously through the general fund of the county. We were able to actually get not only just the substation, but of course also one for the Quemado area that was very much needed. The substation specifically in Loma Bonita. One major issue that we always had fought and that we had been dealing with, and when I came on board, was the presence of law enforcement has failed in the Loma Bonita area, and that obviously has failed under the direction of law enforcement of the sheriff's department has had their work cut out for what needs to be done. And I think that at this point we need to make sure that we are doing what is necessary to place those officials or those opportunities for this substation to have that. We hear, the sheriff that comes out and basically says that there's a need for a new sheriff's department. There's a need for new issues that need to be taken care of at the department. Believe me, I'm in total agreement. We need it. We need more for the actual department. The jail is in complete need for upgrades. In my personal opinion, we need to have what is a new facility provided for the department. But one way, of course, to address these issues is, okay, as a court, we are recognizing that our constituency, our people, need additional help out in the Loma Bonita, and not only Loma Bonita, because that's also going to serve for areas like La Herradura and areas that are there, Crown Ridge, all of those, not Crown Ridge, Coronado Estates, those areas that are all in that specific location, they need more presence of law enforcement. And that's the one way that we as a court basically said, all right, well, you all say that you need more help. You all need more space for your deputies to have an area for reports for what is needed. Okay, well, we're going to shift, and it's now going to be an issue where the sheriff is going to have to take those necessary resources and allocate them to make sure that there is an adequate amount of law enforcement present on the south side as there is on the north side of Maverick County. So Commissioner Reese, of course, whom held what is this very important need for this substation to be created. We have taken the necessary steps. We have had this facility already built. Right now, they are actually finalizing work on the parking lots and working on that, the fencing for security, and making sure that they will have sufficient areas to work, but also to patrol in that area, which is going to be something that's extremely important for the residents that we serve here in Maverick County. So I do want to emphasize that we are working towards getting as much as possible for the south side of Maverick County, as we are, for every other distinct precinct. But when it comes to law enforcement, we've seen that. We saw the issues of drive-by shootings that happened in the Loma Bonita area, nearly 4 years ago. And those were matters that to us, when we decided that, there's a need, we basically said, okay, let's get this project going. Let's move forward. Because the past administration obviously never truly cared to invest in law enforcement measures for issues that were there in the Colonia areas. And having a presence, it makes a difference, Isaac. And I think that this is the one way that we are definitely going to be able to do what is right and to bring that law enforcement need to our county on the south side of Maverick County.
Absolutely. I couldn't agree with you more. The county has also brought in a lot of funding for law enforcement. SB 22 for the sheriff's side, SB 22 for the constables to supplement their salaries, equipment, and also through the Motor Vehicle Crime Prevention Authority. And these are grants, if I'm not mistaken, weren't around in the past administration. They didn't attempt to apply for these types of grants. What kind of difference has this done for the law enforcement impact for Maverick County since you've been on board?
Well, what is the catalyst converter and all of these grants? These have been opportunities where we've been able to bring in pretty much funding for employment on these matters. These have been obviously new employees that have been brought in through that grant, or that have funded employees to serve as the individuals whom are pretty much working towards issues that are in reference to whether it's theft on vehicles, matters that are working on specific requests for automobile crimes. Those are issues that for us, really had never been at the forefront of county operations and county law enforcement. And therefore, we were able to obtain those additional funds for the department, for the sheriff's department. And while, we look at all of this, and, sometimes, individuals may see, okay, well, the judge and the sheriff may not have the best relationship. My relationship is to bring opportunities to the department, despite of our differences, or despite our political views. My decision here, of course, is to serve every single department in Maverick County. We are pretty much, and it's like I've always said, we are a family, and we may not always agree on certain things, but at the end of the day, we have to be together in order to try to get things accomplished. And that is the goals, of course, that I have for the department, for all departments, in order to get those done. So we were able to accomplish that. That grant, of course, brought in a hefty amount that was able to service that need for those employees, and pretty much gain what is the opportunity to move additional access for economic support for the sheriff's department in that.
Yeah, there's a lot of good grant funding, and of course, I think everybody really appreciates it going into law enforcement as well. So, given that, right, the other aspect of public service would be, or public safety would be, the fire and EMS. There's a lot of people that have criticized, especially one of your opponents, former county commissioner Jerry Morales, when he discusses fire and EMS. And I think David Salcedo was also at the Quemado town hall. They mentioned, why haven't you established something since you've been here?
Well, here's the question. Why didn't they do it in their 30 years? I think that's the best thing to say. They're quick to judge, Isaac. And Jerry can talk a lot. It's about all he can do. And that's about all he's worth doing. Is he's good. He's a good talker and good liar. And in my opinion, is if that's the case, then why didn't he do it? He had the opportunity. David Salcedo had the opportunity in 30 years serving as a commissioner, as a county judge, as a constable, serving in all capacities. Didn't do it. Jerry Morales, same thing, 12 years. Why didn't you ever bring it up, sir? Why didn't you ever place an item on the agenda to try to make that happen? And unfortunately, that's the thing, is that people seem to think, oh, I'm going to turn the county over in 3 years. That's not possible. I remember the city of Eagle Pass, we invested heavily in our city, and it took us 15 years to get the city to a level where people were finally seeing, wow, there's change. There's, investment in our streets, in our drainage, in our parks, in our facilities. I mean, nowadays, I look at the sports complex, and I'm like, this is what it's about. Investment, going back and giving back to our community. This is what we have to be working towards. And they're heavy to criticize on matters, but what do they really bring to the table? Nothing. They didn't bring nothing to the table for 30 years. Jerry didn't bring nothing to the table for 12 years. All they ever and let me make it clear. Just like Jerry, just like David, just like Rosie, all of them that were on the court, they had majority. They had the opportunity to do anything that they thought was in the best interest of the community. And then ask yourself this question: did they? They didn't. They did nothing. All they did was work on projects that benefited themselves. A commissioner who basically built a road in front of her house that pretty much made her issues there. You have another commissioner like Jerry, who pretty much had his brother-in-law serve as a subcontractor for the amphitheater, a $6 million project. You tell me what is happening there. Not to mention, who knows how much David Salcedo didn't get in his time in office. Those are the types of matters that are concerning to me. And as this election is going on, people need to always ask themselves and remind themselves of the people that are there. There was a reason why there was pretty much a very clear demand in the last election. Everybody lost. Why? Because you wanted to see change. And when you saw that change, people obviously that were part of that group were very afraid to lose complete control. Complete control. And this is not about control, people. Let me be very clear. That's the last thing that I have. I am not like the past administration or like the commissioners that I've mentioned. I am far from going to all of my employees and telling them, you need to have 50 names given to me before the end of the day, because we're going to make sure that those people go out and vote, because that's the only way we're going to win. Those are the type of tactics that they would do. And that's the type of thing that nowadays our departments, they work comfortably. They work on what they need to work on and get done in order to do that. So it is unfortunate that this is where we're at. But when you ask specifically towards fire and EMS, he was quick to say, "Oh, well, why didn't you get started on that, or why didn't you do that?" The question is, when you have a county that is turned over to you the way that it was turned over to me, we have to basically sit down and start from scratch. How are we doing that? We had to build a foundation, because a weak foundation at the end of the day is ultimately not what is going to build what is a strong county. So my issue is making sure that our foundation is strong before we can go there. It's always been said, you got to learn how to crawl before you walk, and then you run. And in this case, I am working towards making sure that our county is doing just that. Despite public opinion at times, despite public backlash on certain issues, my best interest is always the community, the county. How can we make it better? I didn't invest years of my life and of my time to basically do things that are not right. I have worked towards always doing something that is going to be making a difference for my community. And I don't do this for money, that's for sure. I do this because I truly enjoy and have the passion to make a difference in my community, despite public opinion on some of these matters. And it may sound, as they say, it's a very political answer. No, this isn't politics. This is me. Okay, this is me and the love that I have for my community as I started as a very young age, and I still continue to be. I don't consider myself that young anymore, but it has been something that for me, we continue working and striving for. So fire and EMS, getting to that question, is extremely important for our county. And the county court, the commissioner's court, has taken the necessary action to move forward and to do what is right on the necessary points of what is actually needed for the next steps of our negotiations with the city. We thankfully have entered into a final agreement. The city of Eagle Pass has finalized what is those terms, and we are moving forward, with what needs to be done with the fire and EMS contract. It has been it was a long run, to try to get that finalized and accomplished, because there was a lot of issues that we needed to go to negotiate with the city. But for now, we are exploring every other option that we can as of this point. We have discussed, looking at emergency services districts. We have discussed looking at matters of, even the creation of, a department within our own county. And mind you, of course, everything is matters to budget permitting and how it works. But this is a safety measure. So we are taking all necessary steps in order to make sure that we can move this matter as quickly as possible for the betterment, of course, of our residents. That is the most important issue that is of importance to us. A lot of people said, "Oh, well, it's because there's an issue between you and the city." No, there's not an issue between the city and the county. I think right now the city and the county have a very good working relationship. We may not agree on everything, completely, but that's okay. But at least what I can tell you now is that right now we have leadership from both entities that can sit down, have a dialogue, and reach an agreement, which is so very important. If you're not talking to people amongst each other, then ultimately that is something that is very crucial to move forward. That is what I want to work towards, and to continue to strengthening that relationship with the city of Eagle Pass, as of course even with the other entities, the hospital district and the school district. It's extremely important that we work together. And like I said, we may not agree, but we will definitely put our citizens first and make sure that the matters are placed at hand and discussed to a way that will be beneficial for all.
No, and that was my going to be my next question, is about the relationship, but I think you did cover that. Just before we take the gloves off, so to speak, I did wanted to talk about, you recently visited several homes that the county has been able to, through the company Equity, working with Mr. Rob Stevenson,
Yeah, through our
reconstruct and
housing and development.
rehabilitate over 15 homes in Maverick County, total of over about $1.5 million.
Correct. That has been a huge project for us, and I'm so grateful that we were even able to get additional funding from the state because of how well we administered the fund. This past December, we actually went out and visited with the families whom received those necessary upgrades and that are finalizing some of those upgrades. But when you see our elderly that have not been able to invest in their homes because they live on a steady monthly income based on their needs and what is actually ongoing for their respective lives, day-to-day lives. We had families that had bad roofing, that their homes needed weatherization, windows were extremely bad, floors were in really bad shape, restrooms that didn't have the necessary ADA requirements for those individuals who were disabled. There was a qualifying factor that the state obviously requires us to follow. And everybody was given an opportunity whom wished to apply for the funding. That funding was set aside through the Texas Housing and Rehab program, and that was through Housing and Urban Development. For purposes of this program, when we visited with these families and to see the impact that truly made a difference, we gave and when I say we, our county gave the residents, our elderly, our senior citizens, those that are disabled, a quality of life that has been improved tremendously. And speaking with the ladies, and when the older, I remember, there was one older lady who basically came in, and she was so excited. She was like, no, que otro color, que me pintaran la casa, and when they finished up with everything, and she said, pero ustedes trabajaron conmigo porque quería otro distinto tema, and so so excited to see that type of interaction with them. I was just there to make sure that they received what they needed and what they wanted, and obviously within what was the necessary budget. But those families, and those elderly couples that were able to receive that support, let me tell you that I am grateful to the state and to the county, and to Rob Stevenson, who managed this grant, to get what was necessary, and to basically set forth what is the necessary terms, to accomplish so many families that were able to do that. We're talking approximately 1.5 million, and from what is approximately from anywhere from roofing issues, matters with restroom facilities, ADA needs, anything that was in that need, in that category, we were able to get that done. So it was a great project, and something great that I was excited to see our residents enjoy, and to see them this December, it was just truly motivating. So we're excited for that project to continue, and preparing, of course, for the next go round, to keep that project moving forward from the state funds, because we want more people to take advantage of it. Some individuals whose homes were just like completely way above repair, we were given we gave the option to them to basically provide them with a new mobile home. And that new mobile home obviously was provided to them, and it was something that was a great thing also for them, because their homes were in really bad shape. So the county, of course, worked on this project, and we really were able to make a difference and improve what is the quality of life for the residents of Maverick County.
That's some great work being done. We do have a question out here, Judge. Puerto Verde has been a major topic of discussion. How did it originate? Are you for it? Are you against it? Is the county getting any funding from that? Can you tell us a little
Something
bit
that's,
about it?
yeah, sure. Something that's important to mention in regards to Puerto Verde is that I was literally working for the state at the time that Puerto Verde originated here in Maverick County. So this project has been going on since before my administration. I want to make that very clear. Obviously, in these matters, these are developments that are occurring when it comes to the issue or the matter for a third international bridge. This project, while it is a very large project and large scale project, is something that is going to make an impact in the community, and that is going to obviously take it to another level. And the one thing for me is that I want to make sure is that we are working to assure what is coming forth. This project, as it is moving in the direction that it should, we still, of course, are literally negotiating, discussing, trying to make sure that it is going to be the best possible option for the county. And mind you, that this issue here, because everybody says the county is not going to receive anything, we're not receiving anything, this is a private developer that's coming in that is not obviously doing anything for Maverick County. Far from the truth. This is a project that ultimately is bringing in an opportunity, as I stated once I was already in office. And I stated to them, I said, the only way that this project is going to be able to move forward in that direction is to assure that Maverick County is given what is a toll collection to that matter, which means revenues would be invested into Maverick County, into the general fund, working to keep that moving forward. That's why it has been a long-term negotiation process. I'm sure that recently you heard that the city of Eagle Pass was also approached on this matter. There had been a discussion on this because this project is a federal project. The presidential permit has been issued by congressional action, okay? This was a matter where approximately 4 bridges across the Texas-Mexico border were approved through congressional action. What does that mean? That basically this was set by Congress. Congress made the decision. Our congressman, Tony Gonzalez, supported the project. Our congressman, who now is representing a portion of Eagle Pass into the next year, Congressman Henry Cuellar, supported the project. These are all congressional acts that were basically pushed on to Maverick County in order for us to move forward. That is something that you all need to understand. This is not something that we took an aggressive approach to bring it in. These were congressional matters that moved forward. So what I want to make clear is that on this matter for us is that we are negotiating those terms. We are finalizing hopefully what those terms will be. And if the city of Eagle Pass is deciding to become what is a partner on this, the issue here is we're all here to work together and to make this project basically move in the direction that it can or it can't. The permit itself, we did sponsor that permit. And why? Because in order for that permit to be issued, they needed a governing body. But of course, nowadays, what is interesting enough to say is that within the private development and the public partnership, the importance here is that we are doing what we can to make sure that Maverick County's interest and financial opportunities grow. Maverick County works on a $29 million budget. That's it. City of Eagle Pass, approximately $55 million that they work on. We want more opportunities in our precincts. We want more investments done in our parks. We want more opportunities for roads to be fixed. Well, the only way for us to do that is to make sure that we have more revenues coming in. So how do we accomplish that if we don't have an actual new enterprise fund that will be bringing that in? The Maverick County Solid Waste Authority only brings in a certain amount of money for the county to operate, and that's approximately, that what we're looking at is approximately, over almost $2 million that's coming in from there. That is not enough for us to do projects. So for me, when I came in, my issue was, how are we going to create new opportunities for financial growth for the county and to bring what is investment opportunities for this area? This to me was a way to explore and to look at, being that it was something that was already in the books and that was being moved towards getting in the right direction. So I think that we are in the most strongest position to move in a direction to where we can have the necessary oversight and have what is the necessary view of the projects that are ongoing. Yes, there will be pushback, and I want to remind the community. Let's remember, and I lived through 2 overpasses as a mayor. The heartache that we had to listen from individuals whom were being bought out from certain overpass areas. But yet, the heartache that people had when they were stuck behind a train for how long because there wasn't other areas to get out of. There are growing pains. There are growing matters that we have to work towards in order to keep moving as a growing community. We are not the little community that we once were. And you need leadership that has vision, that has the ability to take the decisions and take the bull by the horns and say, this is how we are going to be able to accomplish the vision of moving our community in the right direction. And that is what, of course, I offer and move forward towards. There's always going to be something that's going to be popping up and that's going to be coming around. But at the end of the day, what we're working towards is moving in the right direction, to keep our county moving and growing prosperously. People want jobs. People complain that there's not enough jobs. People complain that there's not enough places to go and eat or to shop at, or, there's only so much that's going on at the mall. Well, how do you want us to do that if we are already blocking development in different ways? It's a question that we need to ask ourselves, because this is not how we continue moving the city and the county forward. This is the way that we do that is by working together, by working with the private sector, the public sector, because we can only do so much. We can offer incentives. We can offer opportunities for people to come in and entice development, as we have, because of those incentives, we have Texas Roadhouse. Because of those incentives, we are going to have Olive Garden. Because of those incentives, we are going to have obviously new development that's coming in from from different angles on Veterans Boulevard. There are so many projects that we are working on that have this type of a incentive package. That's the only way to do it is working with the private sector. So there wasn't an issue to work with them to bring that, but there's an issue here working on these other matters that are in question. And unfortunately, it is technically a issue that, in my personal opinion, we have to assure that the community understands that the decisions that are being made by taking into consideration public opinion, that public opinion is important to the court, as they have been at all times. And despite, the loud minority that, continues to be out there, wanting to go against the administration and everything that we do, we continue moving forward. And that is the issue, that, of course, that I offer, to the residents. I'm not going to sit here and, tell you, oh, I'm worried about, certain person, coming and yelling at us at the courtroom. No, that has never been the way that I work. I work based off of facts and based off of what I have, the information that is in front of me. So to me, it is important that you understand what is moving forward in this portion of the of this administration, and how we're doing what is right.
Awesome, awesome. Now, okay, we got another question here, and it's the one we're going to bring up. So in 2023, there were questions raised about your own property tax payments. What happened, and how do you respond to those people who continue to bring up that situation?
Well, let me explain the situation that happened, because obviously this is where a lot of individuals had to, pretty much take a seat back and look at the entire picture. And for me, I think that it's important for us to realize that we were dealing with a situation there where, one, politics was starting to play at its best. Mind you, at the time that occurred, I owed zero county taxes. Issues and terms were being met out for matters and agreements that were being addressed. As they say, tax contracts were being addressed with the school district and with the city of Eagle Pass for those needs, and to make sure that was taken care of. There had been a time frame that they had been working on those issues. And I want to make this very clear, is that I am listed on this property, that because it was only one property that was in question. This property that was in question is a property that my sister legally, of course, owns. Years ago, she placed me as a secondary owner on that property, which pretty much was, to me, important, because she, as a single woman, decided to do that for legal reasons. And respectfully, she was in charge of that property. And that's not taking anything, obviously, off of any type of responsibility, because obviously, as an owner, I still have a responsibility to that. But I made it clear to her at that time that needed to be addressed when it was brought forth. And it was. But, to get an understanding as to why that even occurred and why that happened, when I go back to those years, my mother had suffered what was a very severe injury that basically caused her to retire from her work. And for those people who know my mother, they know that she was a very active woman and was everywhere. If you didn't see her at work with my dad, you basically saw her at Walmart or Dollar General, where literally she spent the majority of her time in her free time, because she was an avid individual who was always out and about, whether it was doing things for her family or for others. Sometimes I think, I get, my mother was always one of those people that, if someone needed to go and get to a doctor's appointment, a family member or a friend in San Antonio, she would take them. She was that active. But she suffered a very severe injury and ultimately was never able to truly get back to walking at the level that she should have. We dealt with severe matters in the family. My mother had no health insurance at the time. And at that point, the issue also became a matter where between finances of the family. I don't know about everybody else, but I'll tell you honestly that in my family, when there's a problem, we all scounder together and literally try to resolve the matter financially if it's an issue, a question of money. And that has always been the way that I have been raised. My mother has instilled that upon us, that literally me and my sister are all that we have. And literally she is the individual and the reason as to why, we are who we are. And I think that when all of this occurred, it was very frustrating for me as an individual to have to live through that, because I gave pretty much what is 20 years, or at that time it had been, almost 20 years of my life to public service. I had done, and I did it for free without any type of compensation. And then to get hit, with this little issue, it was a hard issue for me. It was a hard issue because it even caused some problems amongst our family because of an error in the past that had happened and that I was not aware of. You know, we we had to deal with it, and I had to deal with it. And as the face of the county, I didn't shy away from it. What did I do? I turned around and I had a very serious conversation with my sister, and within the next day, those taxes were paid. And those issues were literally matters that were taken care of. I did not in any way, shape, or form have an issue where, this was an issue that lingered or that was never paid. Believe me, the taxes, that situation at that time obviously was taken care of and was addressed. And like any family, I would, ask you all to say, or ask you all to, consider or basically bring up, or do you want to weigh, okay, do I pay my taxes right now, or do I want to have my mother with me, and pay her medical bills? How do I, go there? I'd much rather lose a property than lose my mother's life. I'll put that out there. To me, there's no property that is worth anything than to have my mother with me. Or my father or my sister. Those three people are the people whom are my family, and nothing can be said about them. You want to talk about me, you talk about me all you want. I put myself in this position. I put myself here in the front, but do not talk about them. And that to me is what is most important on these issues. And I think that it is an issue where people at times they're misinformed and don't understand truly. And I look at some of these issues and I look at some of these matters and I see some of the facts of of what some people and what they even or what they say. Some people that are even out here on the matters of what is being said, and I'm reading some comments that are on there, and it's interesting to see some of these comments that are being placed on there stating it's a pity story. No, ma'am, it's not a pity story. Let me make that very clear. This is far from being a pity story. Okay, and I'm not afraid to face you or any other individual that wishes to come up and address these matters. You want to talk about reality? That's reality. Reality, because just like you, whomever you are, and you know who you are who made that comment, my mother means more to me than anything. And that there is nothing out there that is going to say that. So take your pity and you know what you can do with it. So anything else that needs to go from there, I think that it's important that we work towards moving this community forward and doing what is right. And I am committed to doing what is right. I am not committed to sit here and take anything from anyone, because I have fought for Maverick County. I have fought for my community in general, and I have done what is correct for what is this community. If there's one thing that I can tell you is that in my life, I may have had a tax issue, but I didn't steal something that my opponent obviously did. So let's put it out there. All right. You want to talk reality? Talk reality. But that, in my personal opinion, is what reality is. And when I say of my opponent, I'll just throw it out there very clearly. Jerry Morales, yes. What you did to your family, that, sir, is shameful. Okay? Shameful on your.
Okay, yeah. I mean, we see that was a little tough, Judge. Thank you for sharing that with us. Not many
It's
people
only
get to
reality.
share, stuff like that. So we appreciate that. Now, getting to your opponent, right? There was a water infrastructure project that was going to benefit many residents in the northern part of Maverick County. It went to a vote. There was a petition, there was a signing, it had to go to a vote. Many of the people that supported in rejecting those projects for the northern part of Maverick County, water infrastructure projects, are now currently supporting your opponent, Jerry Morales. What happened there? What's the issue?
Interesting, isn't that? I often say, and really it's only a few that are actually out there that have that issue. And mind you, when we came into office, we worked on a Texas Water Development Board grant that was going to bring what is sewer drainage. In Quemado, you have areas that ultimately have cesspools, major TCEQ violations. In this last flood, major concerns for Maverick County. And this to me is very interesting for us to continue to move in this direction, because what is harsh for me to understand as to how somebody like Jerry Morales would go out there alongside his sidekick, Guetta, and collect signatures to stop a grant that was going to basically bring what is an opportunity for fixing a problem that for over 40 years had never been fixed. But you know what? Jerry's envy, de ser envidioso, de ser avaricioso, the words greed and envy, okay, obviously didn't see where finally commissioners who were working for the betterment of our county, for our precincts. Commissioner Ramos, I'll tell you one thing. She is one of the hardest working commissioners that we have on the court. And I am honored to work with her. But the one thing that I can tell you is that she worked to get additional funding into the precinct. And then you have a commissioner who sits right next to her and who works against her precinct. Jerry, who works against her precinct. This is the county that he's running to represent the entire county. And yet he's working against areas of the respective county to stop progress. And why? Because of simple greed. He couldn't accomplish anything in 12 years in his precinct, yet he wants to stop those whom are working and what are doing things. We have a water plant in Maverick County that was built, in the World War II era under the radar base. We're looking at matters that were done and that were ultimately that were there to serve as a basis for water services for the airport. Okay, then you grow, and radar base creates a population, and then past radar base, Normandy creates a population, Quemado creates a population, and a water service has to be provided, and a sewer service has to be provided. And unfortunately, this is the issue where we are facing the matter of having to deal with the realistic matter where individuals went against progress, people like Jerry. And I just don't understand. We had the opportunity to gain almost nearly $30 million in funding with only having to pay $6 million in our grant match. Okay. And all of the infrastructure that was going to be put in place. But yet now people are upset because they don't have the necessary infrastructure. We had the opportunity. But yet the reason that we don't, and I don't blame the residents, I blame people like Jerry and Guetta, who ultimately were out there lying to people, telling them to sign a petition, that a petition was going to be done, and that this petition was basically to get me out of office, which never happened, okay? And in that case, stopped that progress because they basically petitioned to stop the $30 million grant. It is unfortunate that you have people in this community who continue to work against progress. And like I said it before, they are political cancers. I don't even think that there's a chemo, that we could do that could be used to stop them from being a cancer. And that is what is unfortunate, is that these types of situations that go on in our community, they affect people that are not even them, because Jerry doesn't live in precinct 3. He doesn't care about what's going to happen. He lives inside city limits, from what I understand, when he's here, from what I understand, because I've heard otherwise. And the one thing that I can tell you is that he's got services. What does he care? But yet the people of Quemado have been affected. And those are where we need to be working towards. We've worked on that grant. We unfortunately lost it. We're trying to get more funding. brought back to the table to work on additional opportunities, and that's what we're going to do. We continue fighting, and that's why I've always I've been very clear on my campaign is that you know I have proven myself in the fight. I'm not afraid to stand up to what I consider are bullies and that are people who have fought progress. What we need to do is we actually need to start worrying about the people that we support and that we elect, because when you are not doing anything, when you're not accomplishing anything, I mean, technically at the end of the day, you're hurting the county as a whole. And it is my intention to continue moving this community forward and to continue looking towards ways to bring opportunity for Quemado, just like El Indio as well. And El Indio, we have a project right now that's currently ongoing for the extension of what is a um, hydro water tank that will basically provide more water pressure for the residents in El Indio. We all know that El Indio had that under the El Indio water supply years ago, so the water infrastructure was taken over by the city of Eagle Pass. But yet, we're also working with the city of Eagle Pass Waterworks to fix problems that are going on in El Indio. There is a huge issue that is going on in our community because of the lack of interest from the elected officials whom at that time did not do anything. And it is unfortunate that this is what we're dealing with today. I mean, every year that I was at the city of Eagle Pass, we invested, and we invested in a lot. And that's what we need to continue doing here at the county. We need to bring new investments. We need to be investing in our infrastructure, whether it's through our water plants, whether it's through our road infrastructure, whether it's through our park systems, our facilities. I can tell you one thing, our facilities need a lot of work. But I mean, if you're going to have people, and I seriously ask this community, is that you need to question the people that come up to you to ask you to sign a petition. Okay? Because those are the people that they don't care about progress. No, they care about themselves. They care about what they want to try to accomplish. Jerry knew for months back that he was going to run for county judge. He knew. I knew that he was going to run. And it truly didn't bother me. Because at the end of the day, what is going to be the decision is that the decision of this community is going to be taken into the play, and the democratic process will move forward. And every community, of course, deserves the government that they have. And to me, it is important that as a judge, as a court, while we've had our issues, we have had ultimately, in my opinion, what I consider to be, and let me put it this way. Sometimes, people may be a little surprised with how I express myself now, with the ways of what it is. But I think that it's important for you and this community to understand that these types of individuals whom I consider to be foolish and whom have failed our community, they're the ones that we should be signing petitions for them never to sign up for office again. Those are the problematic people. Those are the cancers that we need to deal with. And that's what we should be working towards as a community. That's why good people, at times don't step up and want to run for office, because you have people like Guetta and all of them. They're causing nothing but havoc. And they're like, the heck with this. I don't want to deal with that. But there are good people who want to run for office, who want to make a difference, but yet they don't want to because they got to deal with that crap. And you know what? Every morning that I get up in the morning, it's as if I put on, basically any type of freaking Crisco and it slides off. I could care less what they have to say about me. Their comments, their ways of what it is nothing of what bothers me. Okay? I work hard. I do the best that I can. And I work towards every single day making a difference in Maverick County, despite what people may think. But here we are. We're going to continue working. We're going to continue making a difference. As long as this community will have me, this is what we're going to.
Thank you for that, Judge. You mentioned the petition that Jerry filed back last year, 2025, to have you removed from office. The case was dismissed.
They sure like
those. What do voters need to know about that situation?
What do the voters need to know about that? Well, that was Jerry's easy way of trying to get rid of me. Didn't work, did it? not even with his chat GPT skills or his inability to understand the way the law works, which he's running for judge. He should understand what it is to serve. I found humor when the judge actually asked, did you verify that with Reporter? And for those of you who don't know what Reporter is, Reporter are these books that are behind us. Okay, these are our law books, and mind you, I'm at the law firm at the moment, and I'm here so that y'all know this is what it is. That's reality. And unfortunately, when you're basically when you're trying to do things with AI and ChatGPT and trying to do things the easy way, as he always tries to do, well, it's unfortunate because you're running for a position that ultimately is of serious concern and of serious matters. You are running not only to serve as someone who's going to work on the budget, you're running to also work as as a member of the judiciary, which is so very important because you have to sit on a bench at the courtroom and basically hear what is the necessary evidences, hear what is the cases, and make determinations and issue orders. It scares me to think that Jerry would be sitting on a bench and issuing a chat GPT order. It truly does. And I say it because it is what is concerning. I'm not here to bring humor to this, but I'm here to basically say that's reality. I have been in the legal world for quite a long time. I've been around it for many years. I have worked to basically make a difference towards, what we have done, what we've seen, where we're at as a court. And it's just, concerning. But he did file that petition. The judge made it very clear that there was no basis for his request. And this was a judge that was brought in from out of town. I'm trying to remember her name. Judge Alvarez, Judge Patricia Alvarez. She's a retired justice of the Fourth Court of Appeals, and she came in, and I remember, it was a struggle, to try to present a case, and if you can't even present a case as you are presenting yourself pro se before the judiciary and the judge at that time, you're representing yourself. You are, submitting yourself to judicial question by the judge. Failure to answer that, failure to provide proper case law, failure to provide every aspect of trying to get things cleared and questioned and answered, and the judge waited. And unfortunately, there was no basis for his request. And it is, we had to live through that, but I'm just grateful that we moved past it. And I just want to be very, upfront that it was a hard time for me to go through that, but it was a moment where, I guess, a moment of levity, where you basically kind of, you sit back and you look at this entire situation and you say, this is what their goal has been. This is what they've wanted. They want me out because they want to be in. And I'm not here. I'm not here because it's an issue of power or trying to do for me. That's the last thing that I'm doing. Okay. They, on the other hand, they are. And that is how they work. I could sit here and tell you, the conflicts that there have been in the past, how they had, an individual whom, in the past served. And let's just, take this into play. You have a campaign manager that was hired for him whom was making almost $400,000 from the county in the time that they served as a lobbyist in Obi Salinas. And that's Jerry right there. But yet, what did they do at the time that they were there in office or that they lobbied for the county? Go look at the records. Zero. Okay? Zero. And it's unfortunate because those $400,000, they could have fixed Whip Road over in Precinct 1. They could have fixed areas that needed to be addressed, that pretty much needed matters of concern when for years there wasn't anything that was being done in the matters. But yet they were quick to pick paychecks. Paychecks were easy. That was always something they could do.
Real quick, in Precinct 1, the flooding issue that was ignored on El Indio, that, the concrete lining of the canal there that could have saved a lot of, hardship, because we go through that almost every year now. I
That
guess
has
that
been
480,000 would have gone a lot towards that.
exactly, and that has been something that, in my personal opinion, that I don't know where you come up that, and that they basically want me to create a fire department in 1 year, 2 years, or 3 years, when in 12 years, a flooding situation, they could have filed for a grant. They could have filed for the Texas Water Development Board to provide them for additional funding. And that was 12 years that they could have accomplished something. They didn't accomplish anything. I mean, I can sit here and tell you all of the discrepancies that I've seen with, Jerry Morales. Whether it was an issue of, I had one PO that came across my desk where he wanted to buy $6,000 worth of trees for parks, and then another PO comes across my desk to an individual by the last name of Montoya for the exact amount, $6,000, to plant the trees. You tell me what he was doing at that time. That's reality. That's reality. So you explained to me how they wish to move forward. And, there was a lot of stuff that was ongoing, a lot of stuff that was ongoing. But in regards to, what he tried to do and just basically go this easy way out, there's no easy way out. The only way, and I can respect anyone who has the fortitude, intestinal fortitude, to sign up and be placed on a ballot. Okay? And let's go from there. That is the way to do it. But to try to, let me remove you from office, give me a reason as to what something was done while I was in office. There are other officials that I know that I've seen that I think should be questioned and should be considered for that type of a process removal. But in my personal opinion, right now where we're here, we need to work and do what is right, and do what we have to accomplish.
There's actually, I think you were answering one of the comments, an Irene, right? Maybe you want to explain, because she commented grants weren't permitted for a while under David Salcedo's tenure. Do you want to explain why grants weren't permitted?
Yeah, let me go a little bit further, Irene, so that you're fully aware. Let me tell you what happened in that case. We had two grants that were failed to comply with. Precinct number one, Jerry Morales, whom ultimately had a grant that could not have what is the placement of necessary funding for the Texas Department of Agriculture. They failed to complete it on time. Okay? That was one matter for that grant that was done in Precinct 1. And that grant, if I recall correctly, was set back for purposes of drainage that were going on in Precinct 1 that they did not comply with, and that they did not submit all of the necessary documentation to move forward. Precinct 1 had that problem. Precinct 2, under Commissioner Rosy Cantu, had another issue where we were almost to be sanctioned because of these two precincts. And at the beginning of my term in office, I sat down with TDA and I basically said, because we had an issue where we almost had to do the same thing at the city of Eagle Pass when I was mayor. And I wanted to make sure that we avoided any issues when I came into office to address that matter. And we had Precinct 2, under Commissioner Rosy Cantu at that time, had the matter where the issue that is over off of Remington Lane has been a matter for purposes of, it was a whole project that was being done there for a tank that was going to be placed in the area
Yes.
to connect to studio. I just want to make sure we're on there. Yes, we are on.
I can see you. I'm hearing you good, Judge. All right, we kind of lost the judge. I think he accidentally pressed the wrong button there, but he'll probably be on right now. Guys, in the comments, let me know. I was getting some feedback about my sound. Is my sound, has it gone better? Are we still echoing too much? We can fix that right now while the judge is off here. I think we pressed one too many buttons, but he'll be able to pop back in. Let me know on the sound. There's still an echo. Man, imagine that, getting an echo, and you have one of the best podcasts that I've had in a while. Jeez. Well, I'm sorry about that. We'll have the judge back on as soon as he's able to come on. Don't go anywhere right now. We'll see what the issue is. If not, if we have to restart this, of course we will, and maybe we can fix our our issue here. But Don't turn away. We're still here. The judge is really letting us know what's going on behind the scenes and all. In the comments, if you have any questions, we'll get to them. Of course, we still have a line of questioning. Some questions that you guys wanted to hear directly. And we're going to ask them every single question that you guys wanted to ask. We've asked about the taxes. We've asked about the infrastructure in northern Maverick County. We asked him about his petition to get removed from. There you go.
My apologies. I don't know what's going on this end.
No worries, Judge. I mean, I'm having some technical difficulties myself on this end with a little bit of an echo, but, hey, the show must go on, right?
Exactly. No, we're good. I think we're okay there.
Yeah, I hear you good. On your end, everything good?
Yes, we're good.
So, I mean, I guess we kind of got a little sidetracked since the thing,
So
right?
yeah, so and I think just to kind of finish that up because that was an issue. I mean, we had obviously what I consider to be two of the precincts, Commissioner Morales's precinct and Commissioner Cantu's precinct, that obviously had failed as to why we did not have the ability to get grants for some time. Commissioner Precinct 3 and Precinct 4, they had failed to get grants because of the failure of the others, the beginning. And it was a hard issue to deal with because at the end of the day, I mean, our residents are the ones that are affected and the ones that are ultimately seeing the issue that's coming before the the community that we can obtain to bring these funds down if they're failing to comply with it. So it's unfortunate, but it's a reality. So it is what it is.
We were talking a little bit right now about the county court, right? So, you did put something in this new budget, not just you, of course, Commissioner's Court. And it is having to do with the creating the county court at law. Are you against the county court at law in Maverick County? Why and why was it created?
So let's kind of bring this to light because I know there had been some questions or some comments that had even been said about the county court at law. The county court at law was established through state legislation. State legislators, Representative Morales, and the court or pretty much the state created this new court. I, of course, had my concern with the court because at the end of the day, the court was finally working. Let's just put it that way. So to create a new court to assist with additional cases was not only the issue that was going to be taking cases away from my respective court, but also it would be taking cases and bringing some down from the district court level as well. The court, in my opinion, is something that it will be, beneficial at some point. I think that by the next legislative session, when we see additional levels being placed into the court for new cases or limits, that the cases that can be heard at the county court at law, from family law matters to a higher injury claim that can be heard also through the county court at law. That is going to be something that for me, we're going to work towards and to continue moving in that direction. But it is something that is important for our community for us to continue moving in the direction. At the beginning, I wasn't 100% with the county court at law matter, but at this point, we just need to move forward and do what is necessary. We've had to make necessary budget adjustments within our county to address this new mandate that's being required by the state. And it is something that for me, we have been struggled to make that budget adjustment. We had to obviously take from the court systems. My office itself, I eliminated 2 positions in my office as a county judge and basically set that into one position that took the majority of the responsibility of the court. And I've always done that because at the end of the day, I believe that, you lead by example and you have to start there, especially if we were going to have to be making reallocation of budget line items into other departments or other courts. We needed to do that. So that was something that is needed and that we're going to continue working towards to make sure that the court is successful at the end of the day. While the court currently is still not in operation, the court has not taken its full course yet. It will be something that will be moving forward in the next coming months. Hopefully that we can go ahead and move forward with that based on that issue. That will be a matter that in November. The individual will have to run for that position, and the new county court at law judge will be in a position that will be elected by the people of Maverick County.
Wow, that's something new coming to Maverick County to look forward to then.
Yes.
Speaking of, okay, we're still on the topic of the court system here. It's no secret, Maverick County dealt with a lawsuit filed by Miss Enriqueta Hell, as you mentioned her.
Mm-hmm.
What is the situation with that case, and can you share publicly what is going on with that currently?
No, being on that case, that's a case that's currently ongoing, and I think that I would prefer to not comment on it. But it is something that in my personal opinion, I think that we're gonna see what happens and what transpires. Whatever it may be, I'm prepared to go to trial.
Prepared to go to trial.
I am.
When you, all right, moving a little bit different. So you became judge, right? There was a lot of public discussion about people being fired, replaced. What happened during that transition, and how would you respond to the critics who say you fired a bunch of people as soon as you went into office?
Well, let's go ahead and break this up here. When I came into office months prior, well, a month prior, even months, because I had already won the primary, and I had began evaluating departments prior to. Okay. Um, Discussions that I had had from matters of the planning department, matters in overall review of parks departments, issues in code, matters that we had faced in nutrition center, concerns that were ongoing in the food pantry area, areas that, I never truly got involved in the matters that were ongoing for the road and bridge department, because I basically, advised the commissioners that if there was an issue that we needed to address, they were the experts and they were the subject matter experts that dealt with the road and bridge department daily to know what concerns and evaluations they needed to do. But there was concerns that we needed to address. So what I would tell, the people of our community is that evaluations were reviewed, were done. It is, it's a hard issue to deal with. But when I have matters that are coming before for consideration, and I have employees that, in my opinion, were not even reporting to work. Employees that were not even doing the knowledge of what their basic knowledge of what is their understanding of their job description. And I'll be very honest, every elected official has the opportunity, before they take office, to send notice to their departments or to their staff and to let them know that they have the right to apply or reapply for their positions in the next administration. Okay? That's the way I handled it. Many of them didn't even apply. So in my case, it wasn't an issue that we terminated. They just didn't seek to get employed in some of these cases. While there were some that were removed from office, it's hard for me, to sit here and talk about employee matters, but it was a harsh issue for me to walk into the county and basically use as an example the planning department. Planning department, I remember walking in there and talking to, at that time, whom was the planning, I think, secretary, Sandy Kidd. And I asked her, I said, "Where's your director?" And she basically mentioned she hadn't seen him. Departments don't work that way. I wasn't going to work that way. And you can come into my office and just like into any of my departments that I oversee and I have set a tone of expectation of what to do, how to work with our residents. And mind you, we're not, perfect in everything, because it's an evolving matter that continues to do what is right and what we need to do. But we strive for trying to make it the best that we can. And it has been a challenge, but we continue doing what we need to do to provide the services that are reflective in our departments. I can proudly say that when I look at my departments now, our planning department is excelling tremendously. Our department works toward making sure that the planning initiatives are done. That we work towards doing what is bringing in, new opportunities for investment. Back then, the planning department wasn't even bringing in what is permit fees or anything that is, in those matters. Today, planning department is bringing in almost $1.2 million in permit fees in investment that's coming in based on valuation. I mean, those are huge impacts to how the county operation would run before to how it's being run now. And those are still matters that, we're trying to get, above the change. Code enforcement, they're out there, they're working, and that in itself is an education matter, with our community, trying to get that done as much as possible to keep them informed and to let them know what the process are for code violations. Inspections are being done frequently for those matters. Our nutrition center, and, as I'm proud of every department, but our nutrition center, I'm so, proud of the work that's being done there, because we have formed what is a great team in that department, and the seniors who benefit from the nutrition center, they see the difference. And that is truly impressive for me, because whenever I walk in there, they're very thankful. The investments that we put into that building, back then the building looked horrible. It was a very sad place to walk into. We've made changes, we've invested, we've made a difference for our residents. The food pantry as well, we are working towards, continuing to make that a much greater place. And our director there and our staff, they're hard workers. They get to the office, at the early wee hours of the morning at 5 a.m. and they're there till 2 in the afternoon. And these are employees who give back and that are doing food distributions on a daily basis and emergency bags and giving back into our community. So I think that it has been something that for me, we are working towards doing the right things for our county. And while it may not be that I wish that I could be out there, and that is partially my fault, that I could be out publicly more, on interviews and trying to do more, but literally I'm so bogged down. Back at the city, I was, the face, but I had an administrative team that was handling everything, that was working together with me. Here, I am the face and the administration, and it is harder, for us to kind of just get that information out as fast as I'd like. But we're working on doing that to make sure that people understand everything that we're doing. It's for me something that is truly a blessing to serve the community that I love so much, and to see people impacted with great service and with changes of the service. It makes a huge difference in the way that I work and how I prefer to see this community continue to grow.
And sticking kind of with this theme, employees that didn't want to reapply for their positions. So some of your opponent Jerry Morales's supporters, they're former county employees. They're individuals who previously sought funding through contracts, through bids. How do you feel about those people now backing your opponents?
Well, hey, it's understandable. Hopefully people see that as an issue where, and I'm not afraid to name them, because I think that it's important, that people be aware and understand. I can, throw people out and throw people's names out that, in my opinion, were supporters of mine, that at the end of the day didn't produce. They weren't able to make that difference for us. And it's unfortunate, because I see people whom I respected greatly and had, an affection for them. People like, Robert Bob Floyd, who in my opinion, that break in what I considered was not only a professional, but, a good friend, someone whom I considered even, family in this case. But they wanted, obviously, that individual worked for BBO Enterprises. They would handle a lot of the county's maintenance operations of the processes for how tractors get fixed from road and bridge. They really wanted us to. Bob left BBO, created his own company, and in that case, he wanted us to send all of the work with him. And unfortunately, I just don't work that way. There's a relationship that's been established, and we need to make sure that there's opportunity for everyone. And I've always been very clear that there's an opportunity there for everyone. However, when those types of matters start happening and people want more for what they're trying to obtain, or trying to get. It's just not correct. He was one. Juan and Gracie Martinez, those were others that, in my opinion, they came to my office and left me a quote for building a fence at the Maverick County International Airport for $54,000. I basically went back and was surprised when they did that because we were going to build it ourselves in-house for $8,000. So that's one. That's another one. There's another individual, Lucy. I don't even remember what her last name is, but she wanted to be the nutrition center director, didn't have what were the qualifications that were needed to be a director at the time. And unfortunately, has two of her children working in the auditor's office that have caused problems for how we work and how we manage the auditing standards and our POs, and ultimately has stopped some of the progress because now you have the political inside to the auditing department because of that one lady. And I think that it's people like that I would hope that people would see that, yes, we did lose some. There's other people, Banda. I'm not afraid to bring him up. What is his first name? I can't remember his first name.
Rodolfo Banda.
Rodolfo Banda. He obviously wanted to be road and bridge superintendent. And I mean, come on. It is, the matters there are just unfortunate that we've come this far. We worked really hard to move a past administration. And in my opinion, I think that we just need to do what is right. And what was right at this time was to make sure that we hired the correct people, the qualified people, that we did things within budget, and that no political alliance to me or any commissioner was going to be receiving more funding or more opportunities than any other vendor that is currently working for Maverick County. That is the way that I work. And if some of them couldn't handle that, well, I'm sorry. You go and you support the opponent. Because in my opinion, dime con quién andas y te diré quién eres. It's exactly what it is, and that's exactly what we're dealing with. People who want to take more from the system and talk about corruption, well, that's, in my opinion, where we're talking about the corruption and the real corruption of Maverick County. Hope that answers the question.
Here's a good one, Judge. This one was actually requested by multiple people.
Okay.
Isaac Ruiz, the county's grant administrator, was arrested for an alleged family assault issue. What action did your administration take, and how did you handle those matters while maintaining public trust?
Well, Isaac, I think. Well, I'm glad there's no holding back on any question. I think that it was and let me tell you, in any case, in any employee that's going to have a matter that's going on in their personal life, in their matter, obviously the most important thing is that I recall that you came to my office and you advised me of the situation. At that point, it was disappointing that we had to obviously face what is public scrutiny on these matters, because as always, issues are always, as a judge, and I'm not going to go into the topics of a case, but as a judge, you have to look at everything from two sides. That's the first thing that I've learned from what I have literally learned about being in this position, is that it's so important to be equal towards both sides. And in this matter, you have to look at the situation, you have to explore it, and I truly went into that matter as an administrator, not as a judge, and basically, wanted to make sure that that everything was going to be followed. And I think that at that end, if I recall, I mean, there was nothing that transpired from it, but you still, your work was not affected in any way, shape, or form by that matter. And believe me, I don't condone in any way, shape, or form any matter that could have resulted in any situation, because I see too many cases that come before the courts on, issues that come up, and that's not one thing that I will ever condone. But I was just grateful that upon the administrative review that I did and what transpired through law enforcement on your end, everything was able to be cleared up. But like I said, in any situation and in any matter, you know, there's always going to be some sense of disappointment and concern for anything that happens like that because, as an employee, you're part of our team. Anybody is part of our team, that works with us. And I had that situation in another department, not so much to where it was a matter of a legal matter, but just on performance, on job performance. And when those types of situations happen, it's harsh and it's hard because we establish what is a working relationship, but then I also have to put on my administrative hat and basically say, okay, there's your warning, and know that if this continues, there's going to be consequences. And that's the one thing, of course, that I think that I made clear to any and all of my employees, that consequences are something that we all have to deal with and to pay, and it is what it is. So we just do what we have to do.
Appreciate your honesty on that one, Judge.
Yes.
A couple more quick questions. So, your opponent, Jerry Morales, he's running against you for county judge. What do you believe sets you apart from him as a leader?
Well, I'll tell you one thing, and I'm going to use this example right now, not only as apart from Jerry, but also as apart from Domingo, because I have two opponents. Let's make it clear that my ability to communicate well with our community, to express our concerns, and to work together with our entities, to work together with leadership, across the board, is, I think, something that you know, truly sets me apart. We may have differences, and I've said this before. We may have differences with any leader or any individual, but there's nothing that is going to stop you from coming into my office. I have a complete open door policy. I have had that since day one. I'm always proud to say that as a county judge, I'm the one elected official in the courthouse that basically, has his door open 24/7, I could say, to some degree, because there's days when I'm leaving here super late at the courthouse. And I think that my ability to keep that standard of being able to communicate, to work with, to sit down and find a resolution to a problem is what is most different and unique towards my ability to serve as the judge, and what would set me apart from both of them. In this case, I think that it is important for that. I think that my trajectory and my success level in the work of bringing results to this county is something truly very important for me, and it's something that we need to continue doing, to bring that. So I think that in this case, my abilities to work on projects, whether it's going to be in the future, the next thing that right now, that for me is that we're working on is our next plan to provide what is a 7-year capital improvement plan for Maverick County, and working towards the investment growth plan for the county, so that we can now begin to see that. In the discussions that I've had with our auditor, it's something that she wanted to kind of also see, and we're going to work towards it. It is a plan of action that I think our county deserves, and we are working towards that with our engineers that will be also assisting, because not only are these issues for roads and bridges, but these are also issues in every other angle for capital investment for our communities. Setting me apart is my experience, my 20 years of administrative experience, my 20 years of giving back and working with the community, and actually being involved. Involvement is a huge key, for me. And anytime that I've been asked, to take part in something, we're here, and we're gonna continue working on getting that message across. While there's going to be issues with some people that we may face, I think that in the long run, my opinion is very clear on what I'd like to move forward with and how I'd like to move forward with it.
Judge, there was just one that popped up right now. They're asking, I think a lot of people found out something about the Operation Stone Garden, that there was an email leaked. I
Great,
know with the law enforcement, that's kind of
great
a
question.
little bit of a gray area where we can't really speak too much to it. I don't know if you want to clarify anything up or
Yes.
speak on that one.
Yes, for sure. And thank you for whoever asked that question. Thank you for bringing that up, because that recently came up and it became like this debacle about, oh, the county has no money. The county has money. Okay. The problem is that with the way that the Stone Garden Fund, the Operation Lone Star Fund, the Border Prosecution Fund. The court, through of course the recommendation of the budget officer, myself, sets aside how much money we will actually be able to work on or to provide into the fund in order to operate the fund. So let's say Operation Stone Garden. Stone Garden is a very clear fund to where we set aside $300,000 for the next 4 pay periods. And those pay periods are basically there to work overtime for officers that are under the Stone Garden Fund. Then, once those 300,000 have been used up, uh, which normally they really hardly never are, because there's always a rotate of that. The Stone Garden Fund comes in, we receive funding from the federal government, and then there's a reimbursement of the original 300,000 that the county provides from the general fund to basically be a reimbursement of that. Unfortunately, the sheriff's office and some of the constables in this matter had not submitted their reimbursements on time. So what happens in this case? With those reimbursements not being submitted to the auditor's office on time, the auditor's office cannot draw down federal funding without the proper reimbursement paperwork. So in this case, it's not that there was no money. The issue was that the law enforcement division did not submit their paperwork sufficiently on time to provide for that reimbursement from the federal government. We provide budgets to the sheriff's office and we let them know how much they have. And it is the responsibility of the sheriff's department to make sure that they are on budget. If they're seeing an issue, they need to report. They need to make sure that the auditors are aware so that we can go ahead and make sure the drawdowns of reimbursements are done. It is the same exact situation with the Operation Lone Star grant and the Border Prosecution grant. These two grants are pre-funded from the county's general fund to basically pay upfront for salaries that are done to the county employees, and then of course they're reimbursed from state and federal funds. So that's why there was such an issue where the auditor sent everybody a notice and basically said, halt, y'all need to stop this operation until all paperwork is submitted and until there is cash flow back from the reimbursement of those grants from the state and federal government. So that is the issue that we are dealing with, and that is why ultimately this matter has been a problem for our county recently. Was a debacle, and of course our opponents continue to say, oh, this is an issue of bad administration. No, it's not bad administration from my part, because we've given them the money to operate. If the sheriff's department can't submit their paperwork on time, then that's the sheriff's department.
Thank you for answering that. I appreciate it. Some of the guys, I know they're asking about the water shortage in Normandy and Quemado. We did address that. We invite you guys to see this video again. It did come up earlier on. Judge, we're a little across the 2-hour mark. We appreciate your time. I don't know if you have anything you want to say directly to your opponents or the voters in any way you want them to support you, or anything else you want to end the podcast with.
Well, let me just tell you, thank you for your time. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to the voters and to the individuals in the community regarding this particular podcast. It's extremely important for us to continue informing the community on these matters. We're approximately now about 12 days away from early voting starting, and I invite the community that if there's specific questions, hey, let's have them. But something that's important for me is that I called out yesterday. There was a Democratic Party event that was held yesterday for the opening of the new regional Democratic Party headquarters, and I'd like to make it very clear that I am completely in favor, and I challenge, of course, my opponents, and I've asked, of course, the Democratic Party to host what is a Democratic county judges debate for the candidates, because I think that it's important to have this discussion amongst all three of us and to have the discussion amongst us as Democrats, because that's truly the primary that we're in. So I am ready for that debate. I challenge my opponents to this debate, and I look forward to hearing from them to move forward and to have this discussion, because The only way that we're going to actually get anywhere is to truly know where everybody truly stands. So these are matters that are important to county government and to the way that we operate. And the only way that we're going to do that is to hear firsthand and to debate firsthand on these matters that are pertinent to operations of the county. So with that, I would like to throw that out once again. I have never shied away from any debate, but I will make it clear that I will participate in a democratic debate based on the three opponents or the three candidates that are currently set for the Democratic operation, and for us to move forward from there. So we're ready to do that, and I hope that I can hear from the other two to bring this issue up and to have this discussion, because there is a large time to basically to fill for us to get these information addressed. And just to the voters in general, I'll say that I ask for your vote and support in this election. I ask yourself, very clearly and very humbly that, we're here to serve you. We're here to work for you, to make a difference. And, just yesterday, I was asked, by an individual, or I was told by an individual, and it really threw me off, but I kind of thought to myself, I said, I truly was, touched by the compliment that was given when this individual came up to me and told me, and it was literally there at the Democratic debate. They said, at the end of the day, the question that we should all be asking ourselves is, who do you want to represent you in Austin or in Washington? And to make that difference and to move our community forward and to fight for you. And that question, I think, is very simple. I bring to you my experience, not only as a city official, as a official who worked for the state of Texas and under the state senator for District 19, or now as county judge. I bring a long, time of years of experience, and more than anything, I'm ready, capable, and prepared, not only for the administrative and legislative matters, but also for the judicial matters. And I place myself, of course, at your service for the continuation of the next 4 years, and know, of course, that we're going to continue to make Maverick County as great as we possibly can. We've already started the change. Now together, let's finish it.
Awesome. Well, we appreciate your time, Judge. I know you're a busy man. We look forward to seeing this debate, or I don't know, maybe even trying to get a hosting spot on there. I would love to host that one. But we appreciate, and we'll be looking forward to see how this race turns out. Good luck.
Thank you so much, Isaac. I appreciate your time, and I appreciate your listeners' times today. You all have a great evening.
Thank you, Judge. Appreciate it.
Thank you.